Hello, lovelies, and welcome back to the Brown Butter Sage channel where I discuss culture, cuisine, the arts, and more. This weekend, I watched Tyler Perry's Straw, and we have to talk about it, y'all. Now, people seem to have a love or a hate relationship with Tyler Perry's movies, especially lately. My personal relationship with his movies is a bit of a mixed bag. There are films of his that I adore, and then there are movies that he's put out that I don't care for at all and that I get really frustrated with. At their best, Tyler Perry's movies are thoughtful, they're soulful, and they're stirring while showcasing, relatable characters and a great cast. Tyler has a way, I think, with emotion, and he's able to, at his best, kind of bring characters that we know, people that we know in real life, and really is able to kind of highlight, their struggle or highlight just, their story. And we can relate to those characters. But at their worst, his films can be melodramatic. They can be stereotypical. They can feel rushed with lost plot points that just kind of make it hard for me to follow the story. And at times, his dialogue can seem repetitive and even underdeveloped. Now, what I find most interesting about Straw is that it contains kind of what I love most about Tyler Perry's work, along with a few things that frustrate me about his work. And I'm going to give you guys a brief rundown of the plot of Straw. So if you haven't seen it yet and you do not want that to be spoiled for you, come back to my channel to watch this video after you've seen the movie to let me know what you thought of the film. After my summary, I'm going to get into what I thought worked wonderfully in this film and what I thought could have been executed better. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how my understanding of Tyler Perry's storytelling has evolved over time. And I promise not to hold you long, but I think that there are some meaty themes to get into here. And I really do think that Straw is worth the watch. Now, the movie starts with Taraji P. Henson's character, Janiyah, in bed with her daughter. She wakes up, she takes a beat, then she sits up and she gets her daughter ready for school. Side note, I think that this image might be an homage to Annie Lee's famous work from 1983 called Blue Monday, which portrays a Black woman struggling to get out of bed on a Monday morning. If you are familiar with this famous work, then you immediately understand just the type of situation that this woman is dealing with, and that times are tough. And by the way that the apartment is set up, you can tell that they're living a tough life. It's tough. And Janiyah, she gets her daughter ready for school, and she takes her to school after being hassled by her landlord for her late rent check. Now she gets to work, she's immediately yelled at by her boss, and she is told to work the register at the grocery store. Now, while working the register, when she tells a certain customer that they can't take her EBT card, the customer goes off, leaves the store in a huff. But before she goes, she slams a bottle near Janiyah's feet, startling her. And, then Janiyah is told, to clean it up by her boss. And then while in the back of the store, she receives a call from her daughter's school telling her that her daughter, Aria, has a seizure. And she begs her boss if she can leave to take care of it, and he demands that she return in 30 minutes. He's really rude to her, but he does let her go, and he demands that she returns in a half an hour. Now, she first goes to the bank to try to get, some money because she needs the money for her daughter's lunch to take to the school, but the line is too long at the bank, so she leaves. She gets to the school, she finds that Child Protective Services is about to take her child away because they don't believe she's able to take care of her. And Aria is crying, and Janiyah pleads with them, but they take the child anyway. And Janiyah, she heads back to work, and she accidentally cuts off another driver on her way who throws a drink at her and then hits her with his car, causing her to spin out in the pouring rain. I mean, it is pouring. The police arrive, and then she learns that the other driver that she accidentally cut off is an off-duty cop. Okay, he threatens her life. Like, he literally threatens to kill her. He's very, very aggressive with her. And then the other cop who showed up, kind of warns him that he's going too far and tells him to go. And he does. Now, Janiyah is then asked by that cop to show proper ID and vehicle registration, but she doesn't have it, and so her car gets impounded. Now, she returns to work. And she is fired basically immediately for not returning in the 30 minutes like, her boss demanded. And then he refuses to give her her last paycheck. Even though like it's on the table, he says he's going to put it in the mail because that's policy. She's frustrated, but she returns home, and then she finds all of her belongings left out on the lawn, again, in the pouring rain. She has been evicted for, not paying her rent. Then she goes back to her former place of work, right back to the grocery store to beg for her last check. She's talking to her old boss, who again is still being very rude to her and refusing to give her check. And while she's talking to him and pleading with him, two robbers break into the store and they demand money. Now, one of them tries to grab Aria's backpack, which Janiyah is carrying around. And when Janiyah refuses to give it up to him, they get into kind of a physical struggle, and she grabs his gun and then she shoots him. Her boss then just starts yelling that Janiyah must have known the robber, and then he claims that she was a part of the robbery because the robber said her name, but he only said her name because he read it from her name tag. But he starts accusing her of being a part of the plot of the robbery, and then he calls the police right away to inform them about the robbery, and then tells them that Janiyah is involved and gives them her full government name. Okay, she panics and she shoots him. She kills him, and then she leaves the store. Now, after leaving the store, she goes right back to the bank because she's still trying to cash this check so that she can pay her rent, but she doesn't have her ID. So the teller tells her she can't cash it. Now she's frustrated, so Janiyah pulls out the gun that she retrieved from the robbery just moments before, and she demands for that check to be cashed. Now, one of the employees triggers the silent alarm, and the cops, who are already working on the grocery store robbery, are informed about the bank robbery. They make a connection between the two, and they head over to the bank. Detective Raymond gets on the phone with Janiyah to convince her to come out and to leave everyone unharmed. Now, Janiyah explains then that she just wanted her check to be cashed. She's not trying to hurt anyone. Over the next few hours, she lets some of the other customers in the bank go, finds sympathizers in some of the others who actually stayed, including the bank manager, Nicole. Now, over the course of the robbery, one of the tellers actually starts to stream the incident from inside the bank using her cell phone. And then public interest increases, and people kind of hear a bit about Janiyah and her story from a few people who kind of know her or interviewed on the news. And so people start to support her because they feel, she's at her breaking point and they can relate. So they start to, they have their signs up and they're outside of the bank, basically supporting her. Now, the FBI arrives to help and basically to take over, the situation as they usually do in these films. But Janiyah wants to speak to Detective Raymond again because they kind of bonded a bit earlier over, how hard single motherhood is, and because Janiyah says she cannot surrender yet. The cop who threatened her earlier in the day during the traffic accident is among the cops who are outside the bank. And Janiyah believes that he will kill her just as he promised before. Now, she tells Detective Raymond that she has to make him leave the case before she will feel safe coming out and surrendering. This entire time, also, those inside the bank with Janiyah thinks that she has a bomb, and Nicole relays that to the police, but they later realize that what they thought was a bomb is just, Aria's science project, and they do correct that misinformation for the police. Now, Detective Raymond figures out who the cop was that threatened Janiyah earlier. She promptly punches him right in the face, and she tells Janiyah that he's gone. And she shows her his picture so that, Janiyah can confirm that it's really him. And then Janiyah releases the rest of the hostages, and, everybody but Nicole, who really wants to stay with her throughout this. She really has sympathized with Janiyah. Then Janiyah, while she's still in the bank, she gets a call from her mother. This is pivotal. Her mother, after Janiyah kind of goes on, kind of a rant about her frustration and trying to get her check cashed and worrying about her daughter still, her mother takes a beat and just says, Janiyah, Aria died last night from a seizure the night before. So then the audience learns through flashbacks that this entire day has been a hallucination of Janiyah's because Aria died the night before. Now, Janiyah seems to hear this information and kind of wake up a bit, from this, this state that she's been in, to the reality of losing her daughter. Janiyah then imagines that a SWAT team bursts into the bank unexpectedly and kills her on the spot, but that is also a hallucination. And then Janiyah agrees with Nicole that it is time to surrender. They both walk out. Janiyah is handcuffed by Detective Raymond and placed in the back of a cop car, and the movie ends. It's a lot to take in, and this movie was a lot. But I want to get to what works, because there is a lot that does work, for me at least. Okay, this is just my opinion. Like I said earlier, Tyler usually when his films are good, he showcases relatable characters. Now, Janiyah really pulls at your heartstrings, and this story, it's not just a relatable character, but this is a relatable story because he really does, showcase matters of, mental health, poverty, empathy. And right now, I just think that is why this film is resonating with so many people, is because people can use that themselves. And so the fact that, we're getting a taste of this, and a lot of people can relate to what Janiyah is going through, or just kind of being at a breaking point and just having so many other factors that push you to that point. That is really what lays heavy with people. And there are some people that are very unkind, to Janiyah in this film. And normally that bothers me in a Tyler Perry film, because there are times when his villains are written almost in caricature style, and they're too over the top to be believable. But in this film, I think there's a really nice balance with between the people who are very, very rude to her and the people who who sympathize with her. But also too, while some of the rudeness that is aimed her way can seem a bit much, you kind of do accept it in this world. It kind of makes sense, because this is kind of an exaggerated day. And the empathy really does. It really does touch you in those moments because of the rudeness that you've seen her, kind of take on from all of these people around her who just won't give her an inch. When the moments of empathy come, like, there's an elder lady in the bank who has a moment of empathy with her, and, just says, listen, I get that I don't like what you're doing, but I do get what you're going through. It's really expensive to be poor. And she even scolds a bank teller who challenges Janiyah throughout this entire situation. She's just always kind of questioning her, and she clearly is frustrated with being in this situation, but she's being very vocally judgmental. And the older woman asks her, she says, how old are you? Because, like, you clearly you don't understand hard times, because who could listen to everything that this woman has said and shared with us and not sympathize with her, and it's like, yeah, like, and again, that's one reason why, I think people can relate to this film, is because, again, people are just, it can feel like right now that, again, empathy is lost. It's one of the reasons why I have this channel, is because I really want to bring that notion back and to promote that, because we need that. We need that in our lives, and we need people to start to understand each other and start to empathize with each other more. And so I really, really appreciated, just that short part of this film. Also a good thing, great cast, right? Taraji really is everything. She is so relatable and raw, and she really gives us a true masterclass in every single scene. She makes you cry throughout almost the entire film. Your heart just kind of opens for her. Sherry Shepherd was really good too. You can tell there's a moment in the movie, in retrospect, where she realizes that Janiyah is having a breakdown, and she actually admits later in the movie to Janiyah that the police told her earlier that her daughter passed. And so it's when you go back and watch the film, because I kind of did, you can tell that there's a moment where she switches from, just kind of general concern and just, being scared about being in this situation to, oh my God, I really have to help this woman because she's having a breakdown. And she really wants to be there for her. And every moment is believable. Even when she tells Janiyah that she would take care of her daughter, when she goes to jail for her crimes. Tiana Taylor she's a natural in this film. She does a good job. And I do buy her as a cop, though I don't know if it's legal for a cop to be as attractive as she is in this film, because she's absolutely stunning. But she really does commit to the role. And I like her on screen. I just think she has a natural ability to convey emotion and to really make scenes feel real. Glenn Turman and Sinbad also make appearances in this film, and you'll know them both for other, movies and roles. But of course, they were both in one of my favorite sitcoms together. It's a different world, who than where you come from. Yes, it is now, yeah. Glenn is an icon, and he is a beloved actor in our community. And this is the first time we are actually seeing Sinbad, since his stroke a few years ago. Now, Sinbad plays Benny, who is an elderly neighbor of Janiyah's, whom she often helps out despite, not having much to give, herself. And it's really great to see Sinbad, to be honest. Like, I pray for him, and I hope that he continues to do well. And one great thing about Tyler is, how he honors Black actors. He keeps them employed, he pays them well. And you really have to respect him for that, because that is, I think, that's very unique, and someone who has the resources to do it and to have the wherewithal to do it is really great. And it is something that he should kind of always be noted for, because it is important. It's important for Black actors that, we beloved, that absolutely deliver for us, that we continue to feature them and to honor them in the way that they deserve to be featured and honored. And finally, Straw is just a movie that pulls at your heart. It's really hard to watch, but because Janiyah has such a rotten day and she is going through so much. But, you can't look away, because from the first few moments of the film, you are truly invested in her character and you want to know what happens to her. And ultimately, I think I have to credit Taraji for that. She is just excellent at drawing you in, and there's really not a moment on screen when you don't believe her and just desperately want for something to end this nightmare for her. And I think that most people know someone like Janiyah, or they're like Janiyah, or they can relate to the things that she's going through on some level, because times are hard for a lot of people. And so I appreciated how relatable her character was. That's something that Taraji just kind of shines at anyway. But I really appreciated how relatable she was. And I appreciated that this story was really told from a heart-conscious space, because I'm all about that anyway. All right, now let's get to just a few things that I thought probably could have been just punched up or tweaked or made tighter to make for just kind of better overall film experience. Now, as I said before, I usually have a problem with kind of the caricature of some of Tyler's villains. It does work here in this film, again, with a balance of empathy, but there are exceptions. So the first is the FBI member who ends up negotiating a bit with Janiyah. He steps in for the police, and he kind of is like berating her, which I just find to be unbelievable, because normally in these situations, they're trying to be very patient with this person. You see this as a robbery. It's not really a robbery, but that is how they are seeing it. And this woman is inside a bank with a gun and with, other people that she could potentially injure. And the guy is kind of talking to her like, you're wasting my time and just go ahead and come on out. And that is just that's not how negotiators negotiate in this situation. So I didn't think it was necessary. I guess that was done to establish, that he's a jerk. But I didn't think that was kind of proper use of it. And I didn't believe that a negotiator would do it in that situation. The other is the cop who threatened to kill her. Again, the movie kind of balances it, and the day seems exaggerated. So you can argue that, a part of her hallucination, that this story is kind of told almost in her perspective, at least the first part of it. And so maybe she's even exaggerating, the cop and the way the cop interacts with her. But I just think the threats to kill her were really over the top and slightly. And I felt like he could have still threatened her, because I really do like the plot point that she runs into him earlier, and then that's a part of the reason why she's too scared to come out, because it really does reinforce kind of her innocence and the fact that she really didn't want to hurt anybody, so I enjoy the plot point, but I do think that there's a way that he could have threatened her that could have been far more subtle. I think he could have been the one to pull her over. We didn't necessarily need the other cop, and maybe she catches kind of his badge number or whatever, and that's the identifier that she later shares with the police to figure out who he is. But I think he could have just almost kind of pulled her over and just kind of subtly threatened her, kind of really getting under her skin. I don't know. I found him to be, again, just slightly over the top. The other people inside the bank, like the teller, and then there's one customer earlier in the exchange who just kind of don't take her seriously. And I don't totally believe that. Again, this woman seems, really unpredictable, and she is waving a gun at people. So, this guy tries to run up and take the gun from her, and then just walks out of the bank with the security guard, leaving everybody else in the bank. And it just is a little sloppy, just like the logistics wise. And then the bank teller, who continues to kind of challenge Janiyah throughout this exchange, she is the one who initially tells Janiyah that she can't take her card. And then she kind of freaks out once she sees the gun, and she's so scared, and then they think she's got a bomb. So it doesn't play for me that she continues to challenge her in the way that she does. I mean, people act irrationally in situations like that. So, sure, maybe it could happen, but it's not consistent that she's so scared that she's then annoyed and then continues to annoy the woman inside the bank with a gun that they think up until a certain point has a bomb in her bag. I mean, I don't know. I just thought that could have been better. And then my last note, and I'm really nitpicking here, but oh my God, this part of the movie was so, I don't know, I just could have used more of it, because I just feel like it was kind of the theme of the film, especially after the twist is at the very end of the film, once Janiyah, realizes what's happened, and she's ready to walk out. Her and Nicole, they slowly kind of walk towards the door. And right before they get to, the door, Nicole looks to her and she says, "Oh, we have to put our hands up, Janiyah. We've got to surrender." And maybe it's just the way Sherry delivers that line. It's so vulnerable. It's so intimate that it really lays on me that that's what Janiyah has to do ultimately, is surrender to the reality that she has lost her child. And that's the overarching, to me, kind of just the theme, the power of grief, and how on top of everything else that this woman has been through, that, she's kind of just got to accept what has happened, not just that day, but with her child, because that is what triggers this whole day. And I just wish, oh my God, I wanted more close-ups in that moment. I wanted a little bit of melodramatic music. That's where I could have used it. And I wanted more of a highlight on that, because it's essentially the end of the film. Right after that, Janiyah goes out, she gets handcuffed, and she gets put in the car, and that's the end of the film. But so I thought that if that moment were juiced a bit more, oh my God, you're already crying by this point, but I mean, I would have been laid out, on the floor, rolling around with a blankie, no, I have to have it, Lord. I would have been going off. And so I just think that it's crazy, because there are moments when it's Tyler, you really could go all the way there right here, and you didn't. So frustrating. But overall, like I said, a really, really great movie. And I watched this and I had an epiphany. I had an epiphany about Tyler Perry. Now, Tyler is he's very much defends his work. Okay. He does not, kind of care about, critics, and he is very adamant about that. And I get it, because he in many ways has curated and cultivated his audience for years. And he's basically like, look, I know my people. I know what they like to eat, and that is what I feed them.
Nina Simone said this, and I never forgot it. She said, you will use up everything you got trying to give everybody what they want. You got to focus, man. And you know what I do? I super serve my niche. We speak a language. We're talking. We know each other. We get it.
And so that, that is somebody who is like, listen, I know what I'm doing because I know who I'm talking to. And again, he has a point. Absolutely. And so who am I? Who is anyone to say like, hey, that these characters or that these stories, don't resonate. And I think from my point, that's never what I'm saying about him. It's more so that the story could be presented maybe better, or that certain plot points that are not totally fleshed out could be fleshed out. But I'm never at the point where I feel like the characters are not relatable. I do think that some people, even in their criticism, can admit that these stories are relatable, or that they know people like this. It's just that they're tired of the repetition of seeing these characters. And again, his argument or his response to that is, but the people who are in it, like, they appreciate kind of seeing this mirror. And we can go all day arguing about whether or not it's helpful for people to kind of be reminded, of their struggles or whatever. But I think that he does have a point in that, by showcasing what they're going through, that these people really do feel, that they have a voice. They feel that there's someone that is listening to them, and that, sees them. And seeing people, especially right now, is very important. Now, what I will say, though, is, not that Tyler cares about my opinion at all, but I do think that he could serve to, kind of employ some of the conventions that people do criticize him for, that he could work with collaborators that, kind of contrast his style, not his work ethic, okay, and not the stories that he's trying to tell, but just his style. Because if some of these plot points or the characters, the character development, if some of that stuff were fleshed out, I think a little bit more, or just challenged more, then it would make for tighter stories and better presentations. And I want that for him. But at the same time, he probably feels like he's doing well. So whatever. And I do think that audiences everywhere have to accept that this is the filmmaker that Tyler Perry is. This is what he has told us that he is going to do and to continue to do. And you can either subscribe to it or not. And yes, there's an argument to be made that he has the resources and he should be telling, more diverse stories after all these years, but he thinks he's doing just fine. So there are other stories that will probably meet, your style of what you're looking for. They may be harder to find, but you can find them. You just got to dig a little bit and find your niche, and get with your niche. Because ultimately, I'm at the point now where, if Tyler puts out a movie, I could take it or leave it. If I watch it and I don't like it, okay, great. Moving on and keep it moving, but if I watch something that I do enjoy, then, I'm going to appreciate it. And every now and then, that's exactly what happens. And this film is one of those times. Like I said, Taraji was amazing. The cast was pretty good. And while I was frustrated at certain moments in the film, the good far outweighed the bad. So I appreciated this story because it really was told from a heart space. Again, I think empathy is very, very potent right now. Again, that's why I started this channel. So I think I'm onto something. And if you liked my review, if you liked some of the things that I had to say, then go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to at least 300 subscribers. I'm really enjoying sharing my perspective with you all, and I hope that you all are enjoying hearing my perspective. And until we speak again, get yourself some good grub and take good care. Bye.